I find it really encouraging that even at this age, you're still equally motivated to work on the problems, and you're still like going to your labs and like doing your research and like what gets you motivated? What keeps you going?
Oh, just curiosity.
Curiosity.
Yeah. It's it's a nice feeling when you find that you've been able to see a problem in a way that up to now has no one has done. Yeah.
Was there anything that your parents did or something growing up that made you as curious as you are today? Was there anything interesting that you think, because generally every kid, every child,
Yes.
is curious, but for some reason once they reach 15, 20, they lose it.
They can be suppressed. Yes.
So how can we cultivate more curiosity that throughout their life they can have that childlike curiosity? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you have to. First thing is you have to evolve a social or educational or whatever pattern in which it's not a disaster to be wrong. I mean, this is just, I think, a special case, a much more general situation that within the current setup, regarding academic study, education and research, in some sense you can't afford to be wrong because then your career will not flourish. This seems to be a disaster, frankly, and I was very fortunate when I became employed by the University of Sussex, UK, that I didn't have that kind of constraint. I'd effectively, at a fairly early stage, certainly a very early physical age, in my early mid-20s, I had essentially got tenure. Didn't have to worry about my promotion. I didn't have to worry about publishing a paper every year in Science or Nature or whatever. And so it was much easier to take risks. I took a certain risk, of course, in just saying, when the experiments on helium-3 came up, I'm not going to bother about reading all the many books that have been written about nuclear magnetic resonance and so forth, because it's clear that this doesn't behave according to those books.
Right.
I can just go on and sort of start from scratch and think about it. Because that was a risk. I could have just run into a brick wall. But if I had run into a brick wall, so what? I really find it's much worse today for people starting. I mean, you may think it's bad here in the US. I can assure you in China it's about 10 times as bad. People have to continually think about not just where they're going to get a full professorship, not where they're going to get, not how they're going to get tenure, and even how they're going to get to the right next postdoc, even how they're going to get into graduate school at all. People seriously try to publish papers as undergraduates in these so-called high-impact journals, in order to get a little ahead in the competition to get into graduate school. It's terrible. Because that kind of pressure, I mean, people still, fortunately, there's still people who resist that and still manage to do good work under those circumstances.
Right.
But it's a huge drag, really. It's almost guaranteed to result in a whole lot of people simply doing the kind of programs they know they can do within 2 or 3 years. That's not what scientific research ought to be at all.